Hi, this is Tracy from PNP Edible Art. In this tutorial, I'll show how I created this elegant string work. One of the most important parts of decorating with string work is preparation. Preparing the icing, preparing the cake, and preparing to decorate. First of all, you'll want soft peak consistency icing. You'll see when I pull up my spatula that the tip slightly bends over. That's about perfect for string work. In this next step, I'm going to use a brand new nylon stocking to act as a sieve, which I'll strain the royal icing through in order to catch any little hard bits that might be left in the icing. Because I use a very small tip when I pipe delicate string work, I don't want any bits or chunks getting stuck in the end of the tip, because then I'll have to go in and dig them out and start all over again. I'm just going to load the icing right in there. Plop. And then I'm going to go get a glove. I'll be right back. What I'm doing here is squeezing the nylon really tightly between my thumb and my hand. And with the other hand, I'm pulling with quite a bit of force to squeeze that royal icing out those little teeny tiny holes. It's a little gooey, a little sticky, a lot yummy. See, those little chunks are left in the stocking. In this next step, I'm going to show a process called paddling. This is a very important step when preparing your icing for string work. What I'm going to do is put a blob down on my work surface, and with my tilted spatula, I'm going to move it back and forth while I'm pressing down into the board. What this does is pops the air bubbles in the icing and makes it really smooth. Because if you have air bubbles while you're piping string work, the string might break and you'll have to start all over. And here's a bit of a close-up so you can see those little bubbles. Just smash them right out of there. Now I'm going to show you how to make a piping bag out of parchment paper. The first thing you want to do is take the bottom corner and wrap it around and upside down and meet it with the top corner. Then you'll take the second bottom corner and wrap it around the cone to meet up with the other two corners. Then you pull out the two side corners and check down in the hole, make sure you don't see any light coming through, which means the hole is completely sealed. And fold the top once and twice, and you're done. I will be using a size 2 tip to begin with. Then I'm going to tear off the bottom corner of the cone. Just plop it in there like that. And then we're going to fill it with icing. When I put my icing in the cone, what I'll do is put the spoon in and smash it against my thumb opposite of the seam side. So all the icing will come off the spoon and the cone won't unravel. Then I'll fold down one side, two sides. I'll fold down the top a couple times. And what I like to do is fold the corners one more time. Makes a nice finger-sized piping bag to work with. What I'm doing here is checking to make sure the consistency is correct by piping a couple practice strings on my fingers. I'll apply really steady pressure. See how it dangles off my fingers like that? That is about perfect. Lovely. I'll do a couple scallops here. Perfect. Whoop, there it went. Now that I've got my icing all prepared, I will start preparing my cake. I'll be taking 2 measurements, one of the circumference of the cake, which is about 19 3/4 inches, I'll also be taking a measurement of how high I want the strings on the cake, about 1.5 inches. I want my string work design to be as evenly spaced as possible. So with the wax paper, I'm going to make a template to wrap around the cake as a measurement. I'm going to make it as long as the circumference, which is about 19 3/4 inches. Mark it with a slit, and then I'll use the straight edge to cut the rest of the paper off. Next, I need to measure the height, which was 1.5 inches. And it just so happens that my straight edge is 1.5 inches wide, so I'll just use that as a guide. Now that I have a strip of paper the correct size, I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'll fold it in half again. And I'll fold it in half one more time. Then when I unfold it, I have 8 perfectly even spaces. And with a cookie cutter, I'll mark out the depth of the scallops. I'm going to line it up as close to the corners as I can. Then I'll cut it out right along the line, open it up, and see what I've got. Ta-da! Perfectly evenly spaced scallops. Taking my template that I just made, I will wrap it around the cake, making sure the bottom of the wax paper is touching the cake board. And with a little bit of masking tape, I will just tape it off. And then insert a pin to secure it into place. Now I've taken my prepared icing with a number 2 Wilton tip. I'm going to touch the icing to the cake and gently put a little pressure, not pulling too much, but very steady pressure. And I'm letting gravity create the sway. Touch it off. And there's my first swag. I'll start again where I stopped off, gently touching, even pressure, like gravity, take it to the shape I want. Readjusting a little bit there. And stop it off again. It's quite important to keep the tip clean. If there's bits and pieces left on the tip there, it will affect the flow of the icing as it comes out. As I'm making these swags, I'm being very careful that the icing doesn't touch the wax paper, because if it does, it will pop the beautiful string work off when I take the wax paper off. Also, when I finish off the string, I make sure to put a little bit of gentle pressure and push toward the cake so the icing sticks to it and secures itself. Now that I have this first layer of scallops as a guide, I will carefully and remove the wax paper. With the same number 2 nozzle, I'm going to pipe another set of swags directly on top of the ones I already have. And I'm almost at eye level on this, so I can see where the strings land. I'll just stop it off. And I will repeat that process for the next 3. It's so important to breathe while you're doing this. You'll want a steady hand, and in order to do that, you're going to need oxygen in your system. And though it's tempting to stop breathing while you're piping, please remember to take a breath. I'll be repeating those steps 5 times, which makes 5 layers, still using a number 2 tip. A little trick I learned when the string doesn't fall exactly where I want it is to use a damp paintbrush and just tap it into place. Here's a side view so you can see how the layers stick out from the cake. Using the same template as I did before, I will mark where I want the strings to start at the top of the cake. Get it as even as I can there, and draw a line straight across. I'm using a size 2 tip. It's fairly small. Right now I have my cake sitting perfectly flat on my cake board. And in this little demonstration, I'm just going to show how the string falls when the cake is flat. There's a little curve right down here. Since I want my strings as straight up and down as possible without that small curve at the bottom, I'm going to use a couple sticks and prop the back of the wheel up, so the front of the cake is leaning toward me just a bit. When I start my strings, I touch the cake and put a little pressure, and then I let gravity just take it down very slowly with as even as pressure as I can. Then I give just a tiny bit of a stretch and finish it off. And you can see here that the string is quite straight. Again, touch it to the cake, a little pressure, let gravity take it down, little tug, finish it off. As far as line spacing goes, it's really up to you as the decorator, but a good standard measurement is about 1 nozzle width apart. So if you have a size 1 tip, you'll want a smaller space than if you have a size 2 or a size 3. One of my favorite tools to use when I'm doing any royal icing work is a damp paintbrush. And with that, if I have any strings that are hanging over like this one, just very gently brush it off and no harm done. This technique takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. And just a few more strings here, I will show you a close-up and speed up the video just a little bit. There I'm using my paintbrush to fix the string again. And continuing. I'll go ahead and finish the strings off camera, then I'll be back. Using the same number 2 tip, I will pipe a small pearl border right across the top of the strings. And I'll pipe one more set of scallops right across the bottom of the strings. I hope this tutorial was useful. If you like the audio commentary, please leave me a comment and let me know. You're welcome to subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up. Thank you.